Most dog food brands don't really want you seeing how their food is made. Just Food for Dogs is the opposite. They actually invite you in. You can walk into any of their kitchens and see real human-grade ingredients like chicken, beef, carrots, and peas being prepared right in front of you. It's real food made in real kitchens. Nothing is hidden behind labels, and that kind of transparency says a lot. Nothing to hide, everything to love. Go to justfoodfordogs.com and get 50% off your first order.
Hey listeners, this is Peter and welcome back to the History Shorts. Today's episode is brought to you by the Podcast Republic, your ultimate listening app. Discover and subscribe to thousands of podcasts from around the world. Download Podcast Republic today, available on Google Play and the Apple App Store. Today on History Shorts. In the summer of 1793, Philadelphia was the most important city in America. It was actually the nation's capital. It was also its largest city. It was the seat of government, the center of commerce, the home of the Constitution, a city of 50,000 people at the very heart of this new republic. By November of that same year, 1 in 10 of those people were all dead. The government had fled. The streets were silent except for the sound of death carts. Bodies were piling up faster than the living could bury them. And the most dangerous job in the city was being done almost entirely by Black Americans, who had been told, falsely, tragically, that they were immune to the disease consuming everyone around them. Our history brief today is an excerpt from this Friday's Conversation Series episode and a conversation with best-selling author and classicist James Rum, where we speak about his latest book, Life Lessons from the Lost Greek Plays. A quick word from our sponsors.
When I found out I was going to be a parent, I immediately felt a lot of anxiety and worry. So I went on to BetterHelp to try to look for a therapist to help me with that.
My relationship with my family and with my boyfriend and with myself were suffering. I really needed help.
I was ruminating a lot. Really getting those thoughts out to a therapist and getting feedback was just life-changing.
Discover what BetterHelp Online Therapy can do for you. Visit BetterHelp.com today.
This day in history. On June 17, 1775, colonial forces fought British troops at the Battle of Bunker Hill near Boston. Though the British won the battle, their heavy losses demonstrated that the American colonists could stand against one of the world's most powerful armies. On June 17, 1972, 5 men were arrested inside the Democratic National Committee headquarters at Watergate Complex in Washington, D.C. What initially appeared to be a minor break-in would eventually bring down a president. Story of the day. The epidemic began, as epidemics often do, quietly. In late July and early August of 1793, a group of refugees arrived in Philadelphia from the Caribbean island of Saint Dominique, present-day Haiti, fleeing the violent slave rebellion that would eventually become the Haitian Revolution. They brought yellow fever with them. The disease spread through mosquitoes, a fact that would not be established scientifically for another century. In 1793, nobody knew what caused yellow fever. Nobody knew how it spread, and nobody knew how to treat it. What they knew was what it did to its victims. Yellow fever, named for the jaundice that turned a victim's skin and eyes yellow as the disease attacked the liver, progressed with terrifying speed. A person who felt perfectly healthy in the morning could be dead within a week. The early symptoms were deceptive. Fever, headache, muscle pain, the kind of misery that might be any number of things. Then came the jaundice. Then came what doctors called black vomit, partially digested blood, indicating internal hemorrhaging. Then, in the most severe cases, came death. The case fatality rate in Philadelphia in 1793 reached approximately 50% among those who contracted the disease. By September, the epidemic had become a catastrophe. People were dying at a rate that overwhelmed every institution the city had. The mayor, Matthew Clarkson, found himself governing a city in freefall, hospitals overflowing, physicians dying alongside their patients. The normal social fabric of urban life dissolving under the pressure of mass death and mass fear. The response of Philadelphia's wealthy and powerful was, with some notable exceptions, to leave. They left in enormous numbers. They took their families, their servants, and their money to the countryside and waited for the epidemic to end. Among those who left was most of the federal government. Thomas Jefferson departed Philadelphia. The cabinet dispersed. President George Washington himself left, though he made arrangements for the government to continue functioning as best it could from a distance. Alexander Hamilton contracted yellow fever but survived, one of the few notable figures of the era to do so, and publicly attributed his recovery to cold baths and fresh air, a claim that sparked a bitter public argument with Dr. Benjamin Rush about the proper treatment of the disease. The city was left largely to fend for itself. Into that vacuum stepped two men whose names deserve to be far better known than they actually are. Absalom Jones and Richard Allen were the founders of the Free African Society, the first independent black organization in America, established in Philadelphia in 1787. When the epidemic struck and the city's white population fled or locked their doors, Jones and Allen answered Mayor Clarkson's appeal for help. They had been told by Dr. Benjamin Rush, acting on a mistaken belief that was current at the time, that Black Americans were immune to yellow fever. This, of course, was not true. Jones and Allen probably knew this, or at least suspected that it was not true, but they helped anyway. They organized the Free Black Community of Philadelphia to nurse the sick, drive the death carts, dig the graves, and perform the thousands of acts of care and maintenance that a city in crisis required and that almost nobody else was willing to do. They buried the dead when no one else would touch the bodies. They sat with the dying when families had fled. They kept the city functioning at the most basic human level through the worst weeks of the epidemic. Black Philadelphians died of yellow fever in significant numbers during the epidemic. Proof, had any been needed, that the immunity claim was false. They had risked their lives on the basis of a medical error. They had done it anyway because someone had to. Dr. Benjamin Rush, the most prominent physician in America, a signer of the Declaration of Independence, stayed in Philadelphia himself throughout the epidemic. He worked himself nearly to death. He treated hundreds of patients. He also nearly killed many of them. Rush's preferred treatment was aggressive bloodletting and purging, procedures that were, by modern understanding, likely to accelerate death rather than prevent it. He believed in them completely, however, and he applied them relentlessly. He was wrong, but he stayed. In a city where the wealthy and the powerful were running for their lives, Benjamin Rush stayed and fought the epidemic with the tools available to him. Imperfect tools, dangerous tools in some cases, because, leaving was not something he was willing to do. The epidemic ended in November of 1793, when the first frosts killed the mosquito population. By then, approximately 5,000 people had died, roughly 10% of Philadelphia's population. 20,000 more had fled the city. The government returned. The city rebuilt itself. And within a few years, the epidemic had faded from national memory with a speed that seems, in retrospect, almost willful. But some things did not fade. Absalom Jones and Richard Allen published a pamphlet after the epidemic defending the black community against accusations made by publisher Matthew Carey in a widely circulated account that black nurses and caregivers had taken advantage of the sick. Their pamphlet was one of the earliest works of African American political writing, a document of dignity and outrage produced by men who had risked their lives for a city that rewarded them with slander. The 1793 epidemic did not end well for everyone. It never does. But it produced, in the worst possible circumstances, examples of human courage that the history books have been too slow to honor. The History Brief. The following is an excerpt from this Friday's Conversation Series episode and a conversation with best-selling author and classicist James Runn, where we speak about his latest book, Life Lessons from the Lost Greek Plays. The entire video interview is already available to our Patreon subscribers and will be released on our YouTube channel this Friday, along with the regular podcast feed release.
There's one that I have in my head every time I read the news. Cry woe, this is some more than human evil when one knows what is good and doesn't do it. That's a couplet from Euripides that speaks to me in light of our current political
World. Yes. I feel like the entire book sets this tone. These lost plays grapple with mortality, and also practical life lessons they offer about living. Right? How can we use some of these lessons? Kind of leading off of your last comment and or my question. How can we use some of these lessons to live well today?
Well, I hope all of them, in some way, contribute to living well. They remind us of the things that are truly important in life and the things that aren't. They diminish the significance of wealth, for instance, compared with uh, moral virtue and love and friendship and those sorts of things. Um, they put us in contact with a culture of 2,500 years ago and remind us that human nature basically stays the same over time and that our hopes, dreams, fears.
Thank you so much for spending some time with me today and helping make this little show such a mighty success. If you are enjoying this show and would like to help with its production, you can always donate a few dollars at buymeacoffee.com or become a Patreon member to enjoy these episodes ad-free. Both of those links can be found on our website at www.historyshortspodcast.com. Also, I hope you guys check out our YouTube channel where we have different videos and series that are not part of this main feed. Have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you all again tomorrow.